In order to achieve the psyche maturity, and in a way to symbolically get out of the primary psychosis, it's necessary to perform an important, almost acrobatic act. You must be able to distance yourself from your SPM, symbolic psyche me, and preferably what is already the highest level of psyche maturity. You must always approach all manifestations of your own SPM with an utmost caution, distance, and even distrust. Again, as in the case of the parallel psychosis PSPM, where we notice that PSPM is almost a mirror image of the nighttime SSPM psychosis in the form of a sleep dream, we can learn to distance to SPM from the sleep. Sleep dreams can help us master this art. Namely, it's about that moment in a sleep dream again, that moment previously analyzed as the revelator of our SBM, in which our symbolic me jumps from the SSPM to the SBM at the critical moment of the sleep dream. This is how we discovered, let me remind you, the location of the actual me. SSPM, sleepy symbolic psyche me, SBM, symbolic brain. Well, reaching the psyche maturity resembles this sleep dream moment very much. This time the idea is to be able to jump again in the critical moments for SPM from a fictional me, which is, this time the idea is to be able to jump again in the critical moments for the SPM, for the symbolic psyche me, from a fictional me, which is SPM, symbolic psyche me, to a real me, real figuratively, which is SBM. Of course, such a step requires our consent to temporarily abandon the psychotic stronghold of our SPM. And it can only happen if, as in the sleep dream, when jumping from SSPM to SBM, sleepy symbolic psyche me to symbolic brain me, we discover the deceptiveness and fictiousness of the SSPM. In the same way, a mentally mature man is able to recognize the fictiousness of the SPM construction, even of the best organized constructions. Obviously, the more thoroughly the psychotic SPM is systematized, the more difficult it is for the SPM to give up. Hence, the incredible mental stiffness of the majority of people. If there is a mental crisis in which a carefully structured SPM turns out to be helpless, there will be two possible scenarios for the development of the situation. Either the psychic crisis will cause a jump from the SPM position to the SBM position, and the SPM will finally be relativized, or the SPM will collapse completely and the existing personality will collapse too. In the latter case, due to the anti-anxiety activity failure of the current psychosis in the form of SPM, in the search for the anti-anxiety effect, the SBM, symbolic brain me, may succumb to a new form of psychosis, a new SPM, and SPM will appear. In the current terminology, such a situation used to be called a split of personality. That's the presence of two different personalities in one person. Note that it's not, as one might infer from the name, and as it's described in the literature and film, that a person oscillates between one personality and another with a frequency or even several times a week or even a day. In terms of my psyche theory, this type of a specific split personality can at best be discussed in relation to the parallel psychosis in which the parallel symbolic psyche me PSPM develops. And we are dealing with it, for example, in disorders of the so-called schizophrenic circle, which we call now simultaneous polysymbolicity. Hence, the prefix schizo. Although, in fact, it's not any division or split of the personality, as it's suggested in the 19th century when the concept of schizophrenia was introduced, but a kind of personality multiplication rather. Hence, the new term introduced by me, a disorder of the simultaneous polysymbolicity, SP. And, in this case, we are actually dealing with the simultaneous occurrence of both SPM and PSPM, which I described before. And when, due to the persistent failure in blocking the anxiety, SPM, let's call it SPM1, disappears, a new SPM appears, let's call it SPM2. In this case, however, the phenomenon of oscillation of different personality types does not occur, as in the case of simultaneous polysymbolicity. This time, one personality type represented by SPM1 disappears permanently, and the new SPM2 appears in its place. Of course, at the beginning of such a SPM switch, such a SPM switch must bring to mind the suspicion of two personalities to a layman. Only a longer observation allows us to notice that we are not dealing with two alternately manifesting personalities, because the old personality is irretrievably lost and its place is taken by the new one. So there is no double personality. The new personality is a new psychosis and a new psychotic SPM, symbolic psyche. It's a stronger response to anxiety. This new, stronger psychosis will be quite often a psychosis of the paranoid type, because it's a psychosis with the strongest anti-anxiety potential. Does the old SPM necessarily prove its ineffectiveness as an anti-anxiety psychosis and hence the need of a new SPM to emerge? Nothing happens without a reason, and therefore there would be no reason for a SPM to be replaced by a new SPM. And the only reason is the anti-anxiety activity of SPM, because that's what SPM exists for. It's logical that the psychosis which does not fulfill sufficiently its anti-anxiety role must sooner or later be replaced by a psychosis that will free the SBM, symbolic brain me, from the anxiety again. This means that a personality change in the people with the primary psychosis will occur not only in the acute anti-anxiety insufficiency of the current SPM, symbolic psyche me, but there can also be a personality change due to the chronic anti-anxiety failure of the primary psychosis. And what must be emphasized, it's not a double personality that appears, but a single personality replacing the old one. Of course, a build around a new SPM personality will not be a 1% new. However, this is only a new form of psychosis of the SBM, of the same SBM. Thus, SPM2 will be at least a 50% copy of SPM1. Some features of SPM1 will only be more strongly expressed, others will fade away. In any case, the new symbolic psyche, the new SPM2 will be more effective as an anxiety neutralizer. By changing SPM1 to SPM2, SBM will find the bliss of life without the anxiety again. Usually, SPM2 will signify an exacerbation of the underlying psychosis. Thus, there will be a communication paradox in the sense of communication with the environment. On the one hand, the SPM2 person enters a deeper psychosis, usually already paranoid, regaining the bliss resulting from getting rid of the anxiety. But on the other hand, the quality of symbolic exchange with the environment becomes impaired. Psychotic degradation, in the sense of shifting from lighter to deeper psychotic form represented by successive SPMs, is the most common form of personality evolution of the type 1 people, psychotic people. And we continue later. See you.